Tiny now. It's my new record. I have done a record where I've been singing for several years, and I knew that this was something I could easily argue myself out of. And the reason I argue myself out of it is because I've somehow been cast into a certain role as the inventor of some obscure type of music. And this kind of excludes the possibility that I might make pop records as well. So I decided to forget that this year. I think the whole interesting thing about being an artist is finding that you like things that you don't have a reason for liking. And then saying to yourself, well, why do I like this? You know, what is it? Who am I if I like this kind of thing? And this is the question that isn't being asked. For me, writing lyrics always was to try to set in action the game of interpretation in the listener and in myself. It's not as if this is something I just do for other people, it's a process that I'm a part of as well. Trying to make the interpretive part of the mind start to work and start to listen to things and fit them together and think, what does that mean in relation to that? How does that fit? Is that what it means? Is this the thread I'm following, or is it this one here? You know, making a kind of detective story in a sense of the lyrics. Now, This was obviously partly because I wasn't interested in songs that said daft things and simple things and formulaic things, but I wasn't interested either in songs that were completely meaningless. It wasn't sufficient, as far as I was concerned, to just have a random jumble of words. It wanted to be somewhere in the middle. I suppose the place is probably called poetry if you're writing it down. You get a feeling from the way a group of words falls together over a particular musical element. And for me, the first thing in writing lyrics was always to establish the rhythm that the voice would be using. And I've always worked on lyrics by just starting to sing. I don't really start out with a title and with an idea or anything like that. I start to sing. I find myself chopping the phrases up in certain ways, and I find I want like a machine gun of words there and then a word that hangs for a long time. And quite often I'll find that hanging word first. So what leads up to that? What can that word hang off, you know? It's a funny process, but I really fit them together like a jigsaw. The problem with lyric writing is that it immediately carries you back to an old model of what artists are doing. The idea of the artist as someone who wants to say something. I don't really have anything to say. I want to find things out. I want to make things happen, actually. Lyrics can give a lovely sting to a song. Meaningless lyrics are actually not interesting. What's interesting is being on the border, of having rich ambiguity, of making it feel like there's something there, but you're not quite sure what it is. What you really want to be doing is to be writing lyrics that are outside of your own understanding. They have a rightness to them. They feel like this is what you want to be singing, but you don't know why. If you're prepared to surrender to a process and say that, okay, I'll just do it, and my understanding of it will be retrospective. I might understand it later. I might not. This record, I decided early on that I wouldn't pretend it had all been hunky-dory, you know, because everyone's supposed to pretend, oh, we're all great friends. Hey, John. It wasn't like that at all. There was a lot of rowing going on. I guess John and I have really quite different attitudes about how work is made. Now, it happens that the collision of these two attitudes, I think, produces really interesting music, but it's very hard going while it's there. John has probably the shortest attention span of anyone I've ever met. He's sort of like a welder, you know. It's like, and that's it. But something gets fixed, okay. Whereas I'm sort of like a blacksmith, sort of hammering away for days on end and forging. So they work together well. He does weld the things together as well. But it's hard work having those two different personalities together. But it's interesting to me that work can spring from really all sorts of relationships. It doesn't have to be friendship at all. In fact, I haven't been that friendly with most of the people I've worked with. It's a relationship that works for work and is not that important the rest of the time. So having said all that about John, I shall now play one of the songs that he sings. I want to do things quickly and just to put them out in a kind of a rather raw state. You know, the effect of spending a lot of time on something is usually that you polish off all the little embarrassments in it. But often those embarrassments are the things that you come to value in later years, you know. Otherwise you end up with this kind of perfectly polished piece of schlock. That's the only reason I do it all, I think. It's to propel myself off from some shore or other, which I can do in various ways by holding strong views or having a theory about this is a way you can do something. But then to sort of row off and be taken by the current as well, and find yourself somewhere else. And then find, to your surprise, that though you can't describe this area, it intrigues you, it's fascinating. And you think, well, these elements together are very strange. Why am I interested in them? It's your actions, your behavior that tell you about yourself. When you're in a crunch, when you're faced with a situation where you can lose and where you can be seen to fail, then you see what you dare stand behind. You know, I have at home, I guess, hundreds and hundreds of hours of music that I've never released. And when people come over, I play them this and I say, oh yeah, but this is not going to be quite like this. This is going to sound better. And I give them all the excuses. They're trying to sit there listening and I'm talking in their ear the whole time. Now, when you actually put out a record and you release a record, you do release it. You free it from all of those excuses. Suddenly, you're not there to defend it and kind of give it a good write-up. Suddenly it sits out there in the record bin next to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and there it is all on its own. And that's when you do that, that's when you know what you're prepared to stand behind. It's not all those things that exist theoretically on your shelf. Anyone can do wild things at home. It's when you put them out and you're prepared to have people say, what a bunch of crap. Because it actually does hurt quite a lot when people say that. I never stopped writing songs, I just stopped releasing them. That's a different thing. I recorded quite a few songs in the last 10 years or so, but I didn't want to release them. What happened last year was that I worked with John on the record Words for the Dying, and we wrote a song together at the end of that record called Carmen Miranda. And this is a very beautiful little song, I think. It surprised both of us quite a lot. It didn't have a character that either of us had ever had in any of our music before. And so I thought, this looks like a new territory to me. Suddenly songwriting looked exciting again. Plus I'd been singing more and more. And under any excuse I would sing on anybody else's records. So I thought it was time to start again. And I like my voice a lot better now than I ever did. About 2 years ago, my father died, and earlier this year, my wife gave birth to a daughter. Now, those two events seem to me so much more important in so many ways than anything else, that it suddenly made all these distinctions between this type of music as opposed to that, this idea as opposed to that. It made them seem rather trivial. Instead of being hundreds of miles apart from one another, in relation to these other things, they seemed rather close together, and it seemed to me that I had a lot of freedom suddenly to move between them. I didn't any longer feel that to do one thing was the dereliction of a position or was a condemnation of something else. So this year I felt very happy, because I think that I've sort of opened up the dynamic of my work, and I can really work anywhere along the spectrum of things that I can do, and not feel that I don't feel ideological about it anymore. I feel that it all probably fits together in the end, but I don't care if it doesn't. This is Brian Eno, thanking you very much for listening.